Without antennas, we cannot perform the transmission and receiving the data in the radio waves. If you want to transmit the data for a longer distance, it's very difficult when I'm using the microwaves. Uplink and downlink are also called as earth stations. Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to the third session on computer networks. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe now and please click on the like button. Alright, before I start the session, let me give you a small recap on what I have done in the last class. What is that we have done? We started understanding the different guided medias that we have in the previous session. Before that, I started with a network definition. Let me give you a small recap from the beginning till now. Alright, I started with networks. What is exactly the network is all about, and also we understood the next topic, that is ARPANET. What is that we started with? ARPANET. ARPANET is one of the first network that we had. So this is what we have to understand, then followed by we understood the concept of internet. We understood the concept of internet. What is internet? All those things. Including that, we also understood something called interspace. What is the example of interspace? All of you know that, our Zoom classes. Alright, so we also understood the concept of bandwidth. We also understood the concept of what is bandwidth, and also we understood the data transmission rate. This was in the session 1, and then so we started something called transmission media. We started something called transmission media. So in this we have two types of transmission media. One is guided transmission media, another one is unguided transmission media. What is that? One is guided transmission media. Guided transmission media. Under this category, we have something called twisted pair. We have something called twisted pair is what you need to remember. In twisted pair, how many types of twisted pair we have? We have unshielded twisted pair. We have unshielded twisted pair. So we will not write it as USTP. We just call it as UTP, unshielded twisted pair. So here I wanted to give you the recap, that's why I've written it like this. And also we have twisted pair, that is with a shielded twisted pair and unshielded twisted pair. So that is the first category of guided transmission media. What is the second one that we have? So we have the second one as coaxial. Okay, we have the second one as coaxial cable. All right, when it comes to coaxial cable, we have two types. One is thick net. Okay, one is thick net, another one is thin net is what you need to remember. So fine, after this we started understanding something called fiber optics. We started understanding something called fiber optics. So we were transmitting the data in the form of light. We were transmitting the data in the form of light. So why we started transmitting the data in the form of light? Because we were facing a lot of problem with the interference. Okay, that's the reason we started sending the data in the form of light in the fiber optics. So please understand here, so this was the oldest cable that we had, and I was not able to transmit the data for a longer distance. So when it comes to the cost, okay, so we had unshielded twisted pair. This is very less expensive when we compare to shielded twisted pair, and it is little costlier when we compare to the unshielded twisted pair, because we used to have an extra layer coating. So that's why it was costlier, because we were avoiding it from the external interference. So that was the thing that you need to remember with respect to twisted pair. Alright, even in the twisted pair you have different categories of wire: cat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So probably you can expect little more versions are yet to release on that. Alright, the next one is coaxial. Coaxial in the sense, the first thing that it should come to your mind, that the cable connection, whatever you have to your house, so with the help of the coaxial cable. In this coaxial cable, we have two types of wires. One is thick net and thin net. So you need to remember how long you can transmit the data in this wire. When it comes to thin net, you will be able to transmit up to 185 meters. Up to 185 meters. When it comes to thick net, so you will be able to transmit up to 500 meters is what you need to remember. That's a very important point when it comes to coaxial cable. So you started converting the electrical signals into the form of light, and you started transmitting the light in the glass strands. So that we call it as fiber optics. It is very expensive, and you can transmit the data for a longer distance, and you can transmit the data in a higher speed when we compare to other two cables. So that is what you have to remember when it comes to the guided transmission media. All these things will come under the concept of guided transmission media. But in today's session, I will be discussing something about unguided transmission media. So what is that we have, sir? We have radio wave, microwave, satellite. Including this, we also have infrared. So all these things will come under the category of unguided transmission media. Let's understand this in detail one by one. So guys, the first one that we have is infrared. What exactly infrared is doing? What is the advantage that we have? So let's understand one by one. So guys, this type of transmission uses, please understand, infrared light. So what is the mode of transmitting the data? We use the infrared light to transmit our data. So fine, that is the first point. The infrared light transmit the data through the air and can propagate throughout a room. But please understand, bouncing on surfaces. It cannot penetrate through the wall. So you please understand, whenever you are using your TV remotes, okay, so I'm sitting inside this room, and can I operate the TV which is placed in the next room? So it is not possible, because the TV remotes are using the infrared rays or infrared lights to transmit the signals. So it is not possible to penetrate through the wall. So that's what you need to remember. So mainly we use it for personal digital assistants. So the devices, whatever you are using, like your iPads or your TV remotes, all those things, we are using this infrared lights. Now, the infrared transmission is considered to be a secure one. So whenever you are transmitting the data using the infrared, so it is not so easy to penetrate to your data, is what the people suggest. This is what you need to remember with respect to the infrared rays. The next topic is all about radio waves. When it comes to the radio waves, please understand, it is very important to remember the two things. One is transmitter, another one is receiver. What exactly it is all about, sir? Please listen to me carefully. So the transmission making use of radio frequencies. We are making the use of radio frequencies. So how exactly we are using this? Please listen to me carefully. It's going to be very interesting. So the term as radio wave transmission, if I am using the radio frequency, I will be calling that as a radio wave transmission. We are using the transmitter as well as receiver. What is the job of transmitter and what is the job of receiver? Please understand. So guys, the transmitter takes some sort of messages and encodes into sine wave. We are taking the data and we are encoding the data into the sine waves and transmit it into the radio waves. So we are using the main channel to transmit the data as radio waves. So how are we transmitting into the radio waves? We are taking the data and we are performing some encoding operations. Then once the encoding is done, then we are transmitting the data into the radio waves. So in the same way, same thing happened in the reverse way when it comes to the receiver end. So whatever the data that we have sent in the radio waves, so that will be decoded back from the receiver, is what you need to understand. So guys, this is the job of transmitter and receiver when we are using the radio waves. Please understand what is the medium that we are using. We are using the radio waves as a medium. In this medium, we are transmitting the data. How are we transmitting the data? We are sending the data in the form of sine waves. We are converting the data, we are encoding the data, and then we are pushing it into the radio waves. We are taking the help of transmitter as well as receiver for encoding and decoding purpose. So fine, we understood that. So both transmitter and receiver uses the antennas to radiate and capture the radio signals. Without antennas, we cannot perform the transmission and receiving the data in the radio waves. That is very important, a very important point. 3 important keywords that you should remember. Along with 3, one more let's take. One is transmitter, another one is receiver, one more is sine waves, another one is radio waves. You are using the radio waves to transmit, you are transmitting the data in the form of sine waves. The transmitter will encode and it will convert your data into the sine waves, and again it will be reversed back by the receiver. This is what you have to remember when it comes to the concept of radio waves. So fine, let's check what is the advantages that I have when I am using the radio waves. The first one that I have is provides mobility. So it is not stationary whenever you are using, okay? You don't have to be stationary. So that is the most advantage that we have whenever I'm using the radio waves. The second one is inexpensive. I'm not spending too much on this technology to transmit the data. So that's what you need to remember. It proves cheaper than digging trenches or laying cables. The most problem that all of us are facing whenever we are using the guided media is it's very difficult to the pre-processing task, whatever we are doing by digging and all those things. It's very difficult whenever we have the hilly region and the mountain region. It's very difficult for us to digging the things and laying out the cables. All those things were very, very difficult. But when we are using the radio waves, it's not like that. It's more advantageous in such regions is what you need to make a note of it. So then, free from the land acquisition rights. You don't have to take a permission from anybody to dig it and all those things. A lot of issues will be there. So all those issues will be overcome with the help of radio waves is one of the advantage that we have. The disadvantage, when it comes to the disadvantage with respect to the radio waves, what is that we have? It is an insecure communication. Anybody can know. It's very simple. It's very easy to peep into your data, whatever you are trying to transmit in the radio waves in the form of sine waves. So that's what you need to understand. It's totally insecure. So when you compare to radio waves with infrared is much secure than radio waves. All right. So that's what you need to remember. So susceptible to the weather effect. Say for example, whenever you have a heavy rain and a lot of wind and moisture in the air, so you will not get the data. You will not receive the data completely. A lot of data loss you can expect, and a lot of disturbance in your transmission will happen. So whenever the weather is not supporting, so it will be one of the major drawback for the transmission of data using the radio waves technology. That's one of the important point that you should understand when it comes to the radio waves technology. So moving on to the next one that we have. The next one that we have is microwaves. When I say the word microwaves, you have to remember the first point, the line of sight. What is the first point that you should remember? The line of sight. Line of sight in the sense like, the transmitter as well as the receiver should maintain the line of sight. Only then the transmission of the data will happen. That is one of the drawback in fact. Let's check what exactly we have when it comes to the microwaves. So guys, the microwaves transmission is a line of sight transmission. Whenever you want to transmit anything, the transmitter as well as the receiver should be in the line of sight. Okay, that's very important. The transmit station must be visible contact with the receive station. That's one of the things that you should be able to remember. This sets a limit on the distance between the station depending on the local geography. So it is not possible to transmit the data for a longer distance is what they are trying to give you the meaning between the lines. So the transmitting station as well as the receiving station should be visible is what they are trying to explain. So if it is like that, then you need to understand that if you want to transmit the data for a longer distance is very difficult when I'm using the microwaves. The next point is the microwave operates on high operating frequencies of 3 to 10 gigahertz. The range of frequency which microwaves operates between 3 to 10 gigahertz is what you should understand. Alright, this also allows carrying a larger quantity of data due to their large bandwidth. That's the only advantage I see in this technology when we compare to all other unguided media. Right, the first drawback that we have, a lot of drawbacks we have in fact, but what is that you need to grab from this slide is, so you need to remember the line of sight communication is very important, and the sender and the transmitter stations should be visible in the sense like, you cannot have it for a longer distance. And the more important thing that you should remember is the range of frequency that it operates, 3 to 10. So along with that, you can send heavy data is what you need to remember. So what is the advantages and disadvantages that I have? So let's have a quick look with respect to the microwaves. Probably all of you would have got it by now, but I have listed out some of the other advantages and disadvantages too in this slide. So maintenance easy than cables. So I don't have any issues with respect to the cables right now. So suitable when the cable is not being used. All right, free from lag acquisition rate. When it comes to unguided media, so this point holds good for all the unguided media. All right, so low cost and land purchase. Tower occupies some small areas. So you need to have the towers, right? Transmitter and the receiver. So only for that you need to have some small area. Apart from that, you will not have any other burden with respect to the land. Carrying high quantity of information due to high operating frequency, high bandwidth is what I can say. So that if you have high bandwidth, so you will be able to carry huge amount of data. That's the advantages. It's a common advantages that normally the guided media will have. The main disadvantage that I have is I cannot transmit the data for a longer distance without the help of repeater. So that's one of the drawback that I have. Basically this is meant for a short distance communication, but you can send the huge amount of data. Less bandwidth available, all right, and reflected from the flat surface like water and metals. So this is the major drawbacks that we have when we are using the microwaves. The next one that we have is satellite. So this is one of the beautiful topic that I need to discuss. A lot of things are there. I don't know whether I should discuss this or not, right? Let me not do that, guys. Whenever we meet, I'll discuss about the satellite. A lot of interesting stuff and confidential stuff we should know. Instead of that, please research how exactly we use the satellite for our defense purpose. Let me talk about that much later. What exactly the satellite is helping me for the communication. So how exactly we are able to do that is what we are trying to understand at this point of time. When it comes to satellite, we use satellite consists of transponder. So what is that? What is the meaning of it? So please understand, when the unit that receives, so on one frequency, it's very important. I will receive the data in one frequency, but when I retransmit it, I will retransmit it in a different frequency. That's what you need to remember when it comes to the transponder. I'm receiving the data in one frequency. When I'm receiving it, I will receive it in one frequency. When I'm sending it, I will send it in a different frequency, is what you need to remember. So that's what you need to understand about the transponder. So in the same way, satellite communication is a special case of micro relay system. It's a special case of micro relay system. We have two things. Please understand, I will speak about it. So one is uplink, another one is downlink. I'll come to that. Before that, please understand the distance that we have from the Earth to the geostationary orbit. So we have the geostationary orbit distance, that is 22,000 kilometers to 36,000 kilometers. What is the distance from Earth we have to the orbit? So please understand, 22,000 kilometers to 36,000 kilometers. So we have something called, when we have huge amount of distance, we have something called uplink and downlink. What exactly this uplink and downlink is all about? So what are we trying to do with uplink and downlink? Please listen to me. Uplink is transmitting the transmission of data to the satellite from Earth. If you are transmitting the data from Earth to the satellite, then I will call that as uplink. In the same way, if you are getting the data from satellite to the Earth station, so that is what I will call it as a downlink. That's what I will call it as a downlink. So please remember, the distance what we have is 22,000 kilometers to 36,000 kilometers, and we have two things. One is uplink as well as downlink. All right, so uplink and downlink are also called as earth stations, Why do we call that earth station? Why do we call both uplink as well as downlink? We call that as a earth station because both are situated in the earth. That's the reason we call that as a earth station. Yes, the next point that we have is advantages, the different various advantages with respect to the satellite. Now all of you know about it, I don't have to discuss, and moreover I want all of you to do some research on this, get to know and try to understand how exactly we are using the satellite in nowadays when it comes to the defense purpose, defense of our country. So how exactly the satellites are helping us. So that's what you need to dig and research on that. So guys, the area coverage through the satellite transmission is very, very large when we compare to all other unguided media. It's very, very large if we are using the satellite. That is the first point that you should remember. And no line of sight restriction. It is not mandatory that the line of sight transmission is required when we are using the satellite. That's very important and more advantageous. The next point is the heavy usage makes the satellite commercial attractive. So that's one of the advantages that all of us know about it. All right. The next disadvantage, it's quite everybody knows it. It's quite very expensive. So before that, I think I missed out this. Sorry for that. Earth station which receives the signals can be fixed position or relatively mobile. What is the meaning of it? So I don't have to be in one particular place to receive the data from the satellite is one more advantage that I have. All right, so let me jump into the disadvantages. Obviously it is expensive. It's very expensive when we compare to all other unguided media, and installation is very, very complex, that all of us know. Signals sent to the stations can be tampered by external interference because it has to travel a lot. It has to travel for a longer distance. So whenever we are transmitting the signals, there might be a chance of getting tampered by the external interference. So this is the major challenges that we have. Along with that, I want all of you to go ahead, one step ahead, to understand the concept of satellite communication. So guys, by saying this, I have come to an end of this session. I tried my best to give you the best knowledge out of these topics. So if you have not liked, please click on the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much. Till then, I will see you in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye bye.